Hey, packaging peeps, it's Evelio Mattos on Packaging Unboxed. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I am replaying an episode from Tommy Bondi and Frida Anderson. They went ahead and thankfully they invited me onto their podcast to discuss artificial intelligence. Their podcast is called Package Inc. We got into artificial intelligence, packaging design, education, and then really into some Pantone color versus lab conversation, which we kind of nerded out on color. I know it's a huge conversation point today with Pantone having left Adobe. So something you definitely want to listen to. That's towards the end. All right, so real quick, we're going to talk about the packaging pact. And that is, if you've listened to any episode, watched any of the YouTube videos, learned a single thing, or grown your network from any of the shows that we put together, I want you to go right now to YouTube and click subscribe. That's what it costs to listen to Packaging Unboxed. Take a second, go click subscribe. That's the fee. I appreciate you doing that. We continue to grow and bring you more and more information on how to improve your packaging design. I want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors. I want to take a quick minute to thank our sponsors, idpdirect.com, whose luxury packaging manufacturing capabilities are insane. They've got solar powered, they've got algae inks, carbon negative inks. These guys are super heavy duty into sustainability, something you want to take a look at if you're interested in buying packaging direct from a manufacturer without having a middleman involved. The other sponsor I want to talk to you about is packdora.com. You can go online, sign up for an annual membership. You can go on there, type in whatever type of packaging you want, whatever sizes you want, whatever materials you want, and you will be able to download editable die lines built for production. It's a super helpful app. It's something you definitely want to check out if you're starting out in packaging, or if you're doing it. If you've been doing packaging for a while, it saves you a ton of time. It saves me a ton of time. Check out packdora.com. Check out SpecRite, the #1 platform for specification management. Not sure what board your box uses? Not sure how many colors or how much headspace your packaging requires? If you don't spec right, you'll guess wrong. SpecRite.com. Thanks so much. Let's get to the show.
All kinds of cardboard boxes.
What's in the box?
Oh, what's in the box?
It loses its value if you take it out of its packaging.
Evelio is a member of the Pent Awards jury 2023 and has been working with brands like Michael Kors and Sonos, which of course makes both me and Frida curious on what kind of Swedish metal bands he likes. But more about that later. Welcome, Evelio. How are your day today?
It's exciting. It's great. I'm super stoked to talk to you guys. I think Tommy, we've connected over the last few years. You know, I wore my death metal packaging shirt today. You know, I'm ready to go.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to have you here. And the question always comes up because you're really far from us. I mean, you're in America, but still in this podcast, we like to draw people close to each other. So we need to know, when and why did you decide to become a packaging designer?
Yeah, of course. So I went to school to be a graphic designer. And as a graphic designer, you know, you're doing, you think you're going to do posters, right? When you go to school, you want to do the death metal posters because that's like what you see. You always see the cool band posters. You're like, I know I've got like a collection of posters on my wall over here. And you're like, that's what I want to do. And then you realize all the agencies that do those posters for the bands do it for free because nobody's paying them to do those posters, but it becomes work that they share. And then, you know, the other type of work that you do is like website design and ads, and it's not cool. I mean, people love doing that, but for me, it wasn't the most exciting. And I got a chance to do a package one time. They're like, does somebody want to create this box? And I went and I tore the box apart and I created a die line and I made it. And once it was done, it was like this physical piece. It wasn't digital. You couldn't change it. It wasn't like a piece of art on your wall. It was like a physical piece. They got people to buy something. And I could call my mom in Florida on the other side of the country and be like, go to the store. You can see my physical thing that I created. And then I fell in love with it. You know, and I always tell people that packaging it's a superpower. It traverses time and space because I can design something today, March, that's going to be on the market in December, right? So I have to think about what are the trends, what is going to make somebody decide to buy something in December that I'm designing in March. And, you know, there's that time space thing, but then it could also be 2025 when I've designed something in 2023 that still has to convince people to buy something, right?
when do you realize that the chain of people is so long and so how would you say? It's so
it's just mixed, with people from all over the world and just in different industries. It's crazy how many people touch packaging.
So what was your first experience coming into packaging? Did you, from not having any, you said making posters often for free or something like that. When do you realize it's time to make my statement? Time to wow, words. When is it time to
say it in Swedish?
När det är dags att ta betalt.
Got it. Okay. So
when do you want money? When do you need to be paid?
When do you want
for
to get
your
paid?
Work? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So I had a job at a design agency. I was working there. But again, it was doing a lot of like the flat design. It wasn't anything packaging. Once I made that box, I'm like, this is what I want to do. Then I started my own business out of my home. I was doing design for, small local brands, but then there's like a lot of business cards, like little things like that. But then every once in a while I get to do a box. Then I got the opportunity to work with a manufacturer that wanted to create an agency inside the manufacturing plant. And then I just took that and I built an agency that then later sold. And because it grew so big in terms of an agency and just recognition here in the US, I was able to work in specifically packaging with beauty clients, fashion clients, like a lot of really fun brands and design teams. And that's really where I just 100% just jumped into packaging.
How has your because you have some perspective or not a lot of perspective in the beginning when you start to create the box, how print will unfold and how things will turn out once they've printed. So what was your first remark to print, and how did you know that this is actually you can control this once you have the knowledge of it?
Yeah, so I think at the very, very beginning, when I was working with an agency in California, it was a really small agency, and they brought me on just as an assistant to assist everybody, whatever they needed. If they needed coffee, that was me.
So you did anything, any kind of assignment?
Anything, yeah. I was like the very, very bottom. And after about a year, they're like, you know what, I was learning from everybody as I was assisting them. But then after about a year, like, you know what, we have to cut your hours. And we don't want to let you go. We're going to get you a job at our printer. So they're like, you're going to work with us on Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday through Friday, you're going to work at this printer. I'm like, all right. And they're like, this will be great. It'll be good for you. You'll learn everything on the print side. So I spent 3 years working, at a printer, helping load the press, helping cut the paper, learning about fiber direction, how to mix the inks, how to output plates. How to prep files. Like, this was still when we were stripping. So, cutting the Ruby list and setting everything up. It was kind of like during that transition of manual to digital. So I spent 3 years doing that. And I think everything I learned there, I still use today.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, you get some really good views on how to manage packaging and how to manage just normal print and how to create something which is really applicable in the end then. So what would you say to someone who is a student or trying to learn this? What would be the most important thing to take notice on when you have an opportunity like that?
I would, I think as a lot of the students that I work with, when they're ready to graduate, the first thing they want to do is they want to work at the big agency and they want to work at the big brand. And that's fun and everything. But I think as soon as you come out of school, I think everybody should go and work at a printer, learn how you make it before you design it. Because, everybody that I talk to on the production side has so many great ideas of how to execute design, right? When the files come in, you're like, oh, you know what we can do? we can swap out these inks. We can change out this process. We can do, and they have all these wonderful ideas the designer didn't have. And it makes the design that much better. So if as a designer, you know some of the stuff in the back end, you can have a more intelligent conversation of how to execute your design more beautifully.
Wow.
What is funniest, or what do you say, where you can be most creative? What is the packaging you like to design them?
That I can be the most creative with. So I love structure. So it can be for anything, really, as long as I can involve the geometry of the paper and the structure. I worked on packaging for a garage door opener, and it is not the sexiest product, but it required all of these folds and all of these like cutouts to put products in, and that was the biggest challenge. And I thought that was so much fun, right? Because then you got like sheets of corrugate, and you're cutting it, and you're folding it, you're testing it, you're putting it on a plotter to cut it, to test it. It's the challenge, right? It's like a puzzle you're putting together.
It's some kind of troubleshooting, right?
Yeah.
You enjoy the troubleshooting moment.
Yeah, and selfishly, you kind of feel like you're the only person that can solve that problem, right? Because you're the only one working on it. So you're like, I'm the only one that can do this. Nobody else in the world can solve this problem, and it feels, you get this dopamine hit of like power over cardboard.
Yeah, because I think it's a normal presumption that some student thinks that, oh, this is math, this is construction parts, I don't know how to handle this. I mean, it's a lot of testing, just clipping and cutting, right?
Yeah.
So bringing the pieces together, that's the fun thing. And once you've made it, it's like, wow.
Yeah, no, that, and then I think the only other area that feels the same is working on the production side with like, for example, I had a client that had all these beautiful paintings they were all hand done with neon watercolors and everything. And they wanted to transfer that to packaging, right? They wanted to scan or photograph the image and then transfer it to packaging. But of course, when you photograph it, you can, it's RGB, and then you can change it to CMYK, but the CMYK is going to make the colors all boring and gross. So then it's like, okay, well, let's look at what colors are actually on the painting. Now let's find a combination of, because there's still price involved. So we only wanted to print 4 colors, but let's find 4 neon inks that I know when they combine are going to get us all these colors. So there was like blues in there. So I had to find a blue. There was a lot of greens in there, but also a lot of oranges. So then I'm like, okay, I need to find a beautiful yellow that's going to get me this green. But when I combine it with like a bright pink, it's going to get me this orange. And like, that is the same thing, right? It's like a lot of trial and error, a lot of, ordering inks and just, overlapping them just to see how you're going to get close to that color. And again, you feel like, I'm the only one in the world that can solve this problem. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can do it, but because you're the only one doing it, you feel like, oh, this is so important. But you're just printing ink on paper, but it feels so good to finish it.
I mean, we were supposed to talk about some artificial intelligence today, but I'm very, very curious on how do you tackle a brand owner with a brief which you don't really know what you feel for. How are you trying to tackle that brief? Like, wow, this is a problem and I'm going to solve it. What does motivate you?
I don't know. I think for me, it's just, it's like an adventure. Every project is an adventure, right? Where you're starting out. There's always that very beginning where you're kind of a little bit nervous, and then there's like the excitement of like actually solving it. And then there's like the satisfaction of being done. Like, I think those are the 3 things that you experience with every project. So I like going in with that nervous feeling at the very beginning and just being completely honest and saying, look, I don't know where we're going to end up. Like, we're going to go on this together. And then we're just going to get started. I remember sitting across the table from a client, and this was like one of the biggest clients that I'd ever sat across the table from. And, they were asking me all these questions about packaging, and there was like a team of 10 people, and it was just me on one side of the table and then 10 of them on the other side. So it's like intimidating. And they're just asking questions about packaging and print and how it's going to affect like e-commerce and like retail. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's like, I don't know. I'm like, why don't you get me one of your boxes? Cause they wanted me to redesign their packaging. I'm like, why don't you get me one of your boxes? Right. And then they went and they got me a box, and then I put it in front of me and I said, look, this is the way that your customers are opening your box right now. And then I went through like every single stage. I'm like, they're holding it here, right? Which means that they're like their thumbs are going to cover your logo when they open it because of the size of it. When they lift it, it's going to take this long for the second piece of the box to drop out. And then when they, you typically take that box and you push it behind it or you put it to the side, and there's messaging on here, but when you flip it over, it's upside down. And like I went through like every step, and then by the time I was done going through the whole pack, they're like, okay, we understand why you're the person that we want to work on this project. But during the whole interview part, while they were just talking and asking me questions, it was terrible, because I'm trying to find the right answer, and but it's like I'd rather just show you, and that's kind of like how I get into the beginning. Is I just dive in. Is like, what are we trying to get? How do we want somebody to feel? Do we want somebody to feel excited? Do we want to create anticipation when it comes to packaging? And same thing goes for print. Right? Print has the power to create all those emotions as well. So like, what are those emotions that we're after?
It really makes you think what's fundamental when you meet the client. Yeah. So we were saying we were going to speak some about artificial intelligence, of course, because it has turned the world upside down. Just from being in a pandemic mist, then all of a sudden, ChatGPT, Midjourney, all kinds of AI turns up. And of course, as packaging designers, we want to know what is going on and how should we tackle this, because it's a lot of negativity, but there's also a lot of positivism about using an artificial intelligence in your work. So how are you preparing for this, Evelio?
Oh, I'm 100%. I jumped right into the deep end of AI at this point. So I have packaging AI, which is on LinkedIn. I'm posting new packaging developed with AI on LinkedIn every day. There's a lot of people that are asking a lot of questions, which is really cool. There are agencies that are design agencies that reach out and they're like, hey, can you do a class? Can you give us an hour-long class on how to use AI for packaging? But don't tell anybody. Right? That's the big thing. Every agency's like, come teach us, but don't tell anybody that you're teaching us, because we're not supposed to, customers don't want their clients to know they're using AI for design, because everybody's afraid that then the client will say, well, you're charging too much if you're having the machines do it for you. Oh. Everybody's worried about the price. It's a bit of
taboo for using AI?
Yeah, I guess. Not for me. But I guess like if you're an agency where you have, 40 people on staff and now you're using AI,
I guess
they're afraid the customers are going to think you're being charged too much because now the machine's doing it for you. But that's not really the way that it works. But that's the fear.
But I think, aren't we worth that? I mean, we make posters for free.
Exactly.
If there's an AI taking care of this process now, maybe something good comes out of it. I mean, maybe we can do something done fast. Have you been using AI yourself to troubleshoot some for packaging or structural design, maybe?
What I'm actually using it for at the moment is building mood boards. Right. That's where I'm really using it. Not so much creating concepts for customers. But I am developing concepts for that packaging AI on LinkedIn just because it's fun to create random stuff. The last thing I've posted was, I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Do. He's the founder of The Future on YouTube, and they do all this stuff about design. He always wears this hat, and it says God is a designer, right? And he talks about how God is a designer sometimes. I'm not religious at all, but I thought it was funny. I'm like, okay, well, if God is a designer, what kind of packaging would you design? So then I had him, I had Midjourney design wine bottles, wine glasses, like nails, like all sorts of stuff, random things designed by God. And they all kind of had like a similar look and feel, like the packaging did, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, so like that's developing concepts for fun. Actual using AI is when clients provide you a brief. A lot of the times they don't necessarily know where they want to go, but they know where they don't want to go. And sometimes as a designer, you're challenged to show them things that they don't want to see, just to identify like, okay, this is not the right area. So with a mood board, you know, and I always use the example of when clients say we want something really modern, right? Then you can create you can create multiple modern boards that tie into the rest of the brief and the rest of the strategy. And you can show it to them and go like, okay, like this is modern, and then this is modern. And the customer will be like, oh, that's way too modern, right? Or that's not modern enough, like whatever it is, like, because again, they have a sense of where they want to go. So it allows you to show them. And what's great is you don't have to go to Pinterest and Google Images to find all these images of existing packaging or existing items to show them. Because what happens is, like, you know, if you show them like an Apple iPhone box and an iPad box, which is, you know, pretty modern, contemporary, I guess you would say at this point, they then start to expect that their packaging is going to look like that, right? So developing something completely new that doesn't exist, they can then react to that versus having in mind, like, you know, having that seed put in their head that, okay, our packaging is going to look like Apple.
Yeah, I guess AI must be really good to just sort out, this is not good, this is good. I mean, it's a fast process.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fast. And that's what's really cool. You know, you can spend an hour and you can generate, you know, hundreds of images.
What's the challenge? What's the challenge making an AI image, really? Because what's your limitations when you work with it? What do you need for those who haven't seen it or even used it?
Yeah, it's so the first thing is you need to create an account with Discord. And then once you create an account with Discord, you go to Midjourney, and then you create an account with Midjourney, and then they automatically link up together. And the way I explain it is Discord is like the telephone in the Matrix, right? Midjourney is what actually generates the AI, the images. So that's the Matrix. So if you want to talk to that one, you actually have to talk to it through Discord, and then it generates it, and then it sends it back to you via the same phone. So you just need those two things, and then all you got to do is just use some words.
Yeah, it's really amazing, because you didn't have. I thought that when computers were arriving in the 90s, I was a bit jealous because I haven't seen this breakthrough. So by now, when AI comes, I hope it will turn the world around, so I'll be able to see something that shakes people in the graphic industry again.
Yeah.
I must also tell Evelio that is it correct to say that you're a member of the packaging deal, or how should we explain this?
Yeah, we're the packaging deal. That's Corey and Adam and myself.
Yeah, so Corey Connors is focusing a lot on sustainability in his podcast, the Sustainable Podcast, and then there's Adam, who is having the People of Packaging podcast, and you yourself is having the Packaging Unboxed podcast. So you're the packaging heaven, basically, for creators.
Yeah, you know, we should the three of us should be competitors, and we should not be friends, but we are the best of friends, and you know, we help each other every place that we can. You know, because packaging is really small, and there's really no space for competition if you're trying to move an industry forward. Like, we all have the same goal. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. We worked together for maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years before we actually met in person, which I thought was really, you know, crazy. Like, we became best friends before you even met, which is crazy at today's age.
It's fantastic. Well, I think it's, I believe for sustainability, if we just touch that question, I mean, is it hard to design durable packaging, which is also sustainable?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges in sustainability with packaging today is the amount of confusion that's out there in materials. I was just having this email back and forth this morning with an agency out of the UK called Black Ink's project, and they did the Mr. Bailey Adidas shoes that were in the big mushroom mycelium box, which is a really big hit last year. It was a really cool box. First, it was like the largest mycelium box anybody's ever done at this point. but just going back and forth with them on some materials, I'm having questions around bioplastics. There's a lot of films out there that say, for example, that they are plastic-free plastic films.
Yeah.
And that they're compostable and that you can laminate it to paper and that they degrade in the recycling process, but it's not exactly true. Like the way that it's communicated, the vision that you have in your mind of what's actually happening is not what's really happening. And that's where I think customers get, clients and brands get really confused, and they're picking materials based on this information. And then when you go to find out, does it actually process the way it's supposed to? Not really. So those are kind of, I think that's the biggest challenge in sustainability, is just being 100% transparent and giving the customers, giving the clients and the brands and agencies the right information to make the right decisions. I think that's the biggest challenge. Again, when you see something that says that's got plastic on it and says it's plastic free, it's confusing.
Yeah, we asked Ron Alice the question in the last episode, Frida. He said that what did we say? Fiber-based or plastic, and he was just no single-use plastic, not at all. So, but we also said that there is arguments for plastic.
100%.
Do you consider that plastic sometimes is necessary?
Plastic is definitely necessary, and I think sometimes fiber-based is the wrong solution in some instances as well. You have to look. First off, you have to look at the application, and what is the outcome, right? So single use in the Western world, we have the luxury to say we don't want to use single use. But if we go to some other countries where single use actually allows food to be protected long enough and be durable enough, where they don't have refrigeration, where they don't have these things, to actually be, maintain the food in a safe environment where they can then consume it in that single use. That's
a great point. That's a great point, really. Well, we have to round off now.
Wait, before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some questions. I want to ask you really quick.
Wow. Yes.
Pantone colors. I want to talk about inks. And color. From a production standpoint, is Pantone the way that we should be headed, or should we be headed towards lab colors?
Wow. I mean, for so many softwares during all years, Pantone has been a flagship amongst spot colors. I think we sometimes don't recall that there is actually a lot more spot colors, such as Toyo, RAL, or NCS, actually from Sweden. But the value to these are how they are specified. So if Pantone colors are specified in spectral values, lab values, all different kinds of values, the more valuable they'll get. Mm-hmm. And then I'll think it's up to each and every one of us to decide which kind of library do we want to use for spot colors. Adobe is a flagship. It's huge. So when Pantone goes out of Adobe, of course there's going to be a discussion with Pantone, because no one takes the discussion with Adobe.
Right.
So in this case, I believe that Pantone might want to get to work. They want to show their muscles now and why we want to use Pantone. So if I were Pantone, I would give out all kinds of apps, all kinds of creativity, all kinds of targeted communication towards Adobe or other softwares to make sure that we can actually solve patch problems, because that's what it is. It's guides that we can use when we try to figure out what kind of color we want. I guess if you buy a Pantone chart, you will never use it as much in print as you will do when you elaborate with the patches, trying to find different contrasts or try your colorimetric colors. So I think the plain answer would be we need values. So can Pantone provide these easily? Then we'll use Pantone.
So, okay. So if, as a designer, when I'm selecting colors, Pantone's easy because I have a book, right? And I can find the color that I like. And then I can, before you could pick it in the Adobe software. Now you can't. I did a video on how to just create swatch colors, swatches in an Illustrator and label them Pantone colors. Right? And people are really confused by that. They're like, well, I don't have Pantone in here anymore. Like, how do I do it? But really, it's Pantone is just it's just a guide.
Yeah.
But people think it's the Bible. It's like, oh my gosh, this is the color. And I'm like, you can create a swatch of artwork, and the swatch could be green, like the color on screen could be green, but you could label it PMS 185 and it's red, right? When you go to print, you're going to output a plate that's going to be labeled 185. The printer will probably call you and say, hey, your art is green, but you're asking for red. But if red's what you want, it doesn't have to match, because people are concerned, well, I can't make the red on my screen look exactly like the red on the chart. And it's like, that's not how printing works.
The most critical part is that the printer has the updated color values in his ink formulation software, so we know how to mix the ink at press.
Exactly.
And Frida, you do that a lot. Frida, you do that a lot, right?
Yeah. I was like,
what kind of software do you use to mix inks?
The ink formulation.
It is ink formulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So when you get a file for that has a PMS 185, for example, how do you mix that ink? How do you determine how that's going to be mixed?
Oh, that I haven't tried so much, actually.
Okay.
But, yeah.
But as I recall, Frida, you have the ink values in the software, right?
Yeah. So we can try to reach the same.
I think. I mean, you and Lulu were standing there just a couple of days ago. Oh, this a gram of green. I mean, I'm the software guy, Evelio. I'm not the printer. They try to keep me away from the dashboard when they print. So. So I'll guess it's all about the values and how you get the values out there, so people know what value is behind this color.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a lot of other
lab values, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
you use lab values. Yeah. That's the one thing design schools don't teach is lab. All they teach is Pantone and CMYK. And people are intimidated by lab.
Not Brobergross. Yeah, we're teaching lab.
That's great, because that is the one that people are like, oh my god, I don't know how to. That's so super technical.
We need to get you here, Evelio. We need to get you to Sunne somehow.
Let's do it.
We will make a podcast live from Brobergrafiska in Sunne, Sweden.
Let's do it. We'll do it in April. I'll be close. I'll be in Romania.
Fantastic. Let's aim for that. So now we really have to get on with the questions. But before I say anything, Frida, you have the questions, right?
Yeah, I have the question. It's you have to guess what you think it's. Is it a Swedish inventive or a metal band?
All right.
Invention or a metal band? Yeah.
So I say it in Swedish. What is skiftnyckel?
Metal band.
It's inventive. It's a wrench.
Oh. Right.
The wrench from Enköping in Sweden.
Yeah.
Is that the wrench that comes in all the IKEA stuff?
Yeah, the wrench you roll to yeah.
What is the mustache?
It's like a mustache. It's a metal band.
Yeah.
No.
It's the metal band.
Okay. Is it Meshuggah?
No, but I mean, Frida, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, but what do you mean?
Okay, there's a metal band called Meshuggah, so maybe I was pronouncing it wrong.
No, I don't think it's the right one.
Okay.
I think they call them mustache.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have to find that.
mustache. Yes. You need to check that out, Evelio.
Yes.
What is skitarg?
That's an air conditioner.
It's also a band. It's if you translate it, it's very angry.
Okay.
Okay. What is Tetra Pak?
Oh, that's unrecyclable paper cartons.
Swedish invention from Lund.
Yes.
Yes. And the last one here. What is Rally Pack?
That's the e-commerce box that rolls up.
No,
Oh, maybe.
Oh.
it's also a band.
Oh. I was close.
That was all the questions.
All right. So I got
Wow.
10 out of 10. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. I'll guess we need to look at mustache from here.
Yes, we do. I'll have to hunt them down.
So,
Awesome, guys.
Evelio, yeah, thank you so much for being on the Packaging Inc. podcast. We need to do some commercial in the end, and we want to inform everyone that Broby Grafiska is providing a prototype platform, pilot platform for testing all kinds of material and resources in an 8-color flexographic press. So we have a mid-web press of 1,200 millimeters to try out different kinds of material in different kinds of solutions. And provided with this is also UV flatbed tables and cutting tables, just so we can make sure that your products or potential prototypes will work in the industry. And we of course invite everyone to seek out and contact Frida or me to be able to try out some at our amazing facilities in Sunne, Sweden. We're looking so much for you to come to us, Evelio.
I'm excited. Let's
At
do
the
it.
same time. We will also would like to wish you a great journey whilst you're traveling with Pant Awards, right?
Yes. I'm super excited about that. I'll be in London for judging pretty soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Evelio.